Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. So today I want to talk about the new Fantastic Four film, which officially introduces the Fantastic Four into the MCU. Now, despite Marvel having some trouble at the box office recently, Fantastic Four actually did really well in its opening weekend. I did see it over the weekend, and I thought it was pretty solid. I thought I did a really good job at establishing the characters and their dynamics, and I liked that Galactus was a major threat, and they actually showed him, not like that giant green cloud from the original Fantastic Four movies that we got. But people have been talking about superhero fatigue, but it looks like Fantastic Four was able to overcome that. And Variety has some theories as to why, so I thought we'd take a look over this article together. Personally, I think the idea of superhero fatigue is pretty overblown, and it's more that Marvel has been mishandling things and oversaturating the market. Recently, Superman came out a few weeks ago, and that did very well at the box office. But let's just get into the article. Fantastic Four First Steps achieved a truly heroic feat over the weekend, snapping an unprecedented cold streak for Marvel Studios. The comic adventure starring Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, and Joseph Quinn, I'm sorry if I butchered that name, as a titular quartet lifted off to $118 million domestically and $218 million globally, the year's first Marvel movie to open above $100 million. The Fantastic Four First Steps appear to be the studio's first successful attempt in post-pandemic times to launch a new superhero team following previous strikeouts such as this May's Thunderbolts, 2023's The Marvels, and 2021's Eternals. I actually thought Thunderbolts was pretty good, so that's a little unfortunate, but obviously First Steps was able to resonate more with audiences. But moving on, Marvel, which has been widely inconsistent after spending a decade as Hollywood's most reliable hitmaker, used to thrive on the unfamiliar. Iron Man, Thor, the Guardians of the Galaxy weren't A-list characters until producer Kevin Feige began to assemble a cinematic universe in the early aughts. But since the COVID, the studio has only prospered with entries led by familiar properties such as Spider-Man No Way Home, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. The Fantastic Four First Steps, which cost above $200 million to produce, need serious staying power. Strong reviews and great word of mouth will help. To avoid the fate of other recent Marvel movies like February's Captain America Brave New World with a $100 million debut over 4 days, and 2023's Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumanium with $106 million debut, which cratered at the box office after strong starts. Then there's Thunderbolts, which critics and audiences actually liked, but still ended up as one of the lowest grossing installments of Marvel's 37 film franchise. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It was a pretty good movie. Though Marvel is still working to rebuild enthusiasm for its sprawling universe, the studio's good fortunes will at least extend through the next 2 years. That's because the next 3 MCU films, 2026 Spider-Man Brand New Day, and Avengers Doomsday, and 2027's Avengers Secret Wars are heavy hitters, so they're just calling that now, which I think is a safe bet. We'll have to see how the next few movies play out. Here, Variety unpacks 4 reasons that the Fantastic Four First Steps connected in its opening weekend, and why the tentpole should remain a box office force. Audiences are tired of bad movies, not superhero stories. I think that's really important to remember. And even though not all good movies are able to connect the way Thunderbolts unfortunately didn't, that doesn't mean that we should just totally give up on superhero movies. But we'll see what they have to say. Though last year's Deadpool and Wolverine was a massive billion-dollar hit, Marvel's 2 prior movies, Captain America Brave New World and Thunderbolts, were major money losers, and analysts were wondering whether superhero fatigue was to blame. However, the Fantastic Four First Steps landed in the wake of another major comic book adaptation, Warner Brothers and DC's Superman, and still managed to debut above $100 million. The back-to-back wins of Fantastic Four and Superman indicate that audiences are willing to show up for comic book adventures as long as the on-screen action is watchable. After all, Captain America Brave New World and other Marvel misfires were poorly reviewed. Although Thunderbolts was considered a step up in terms of critical reception, moviegoers were mostly unfamiliar with those characters. Yeah, I do think that that's kind of true. I mean, there was like Bucky, who is a pretty big character, but a lot of them were from like Disney Plus shows. But aside from like Yelena or Bucky, you know, characters like John Walker and so on and so forth might not have the same drawing power as characters that we know a little bit better. But in a refreshing change of pace for the MCU, opening weekend crowds were enthusiastic about the Fantastic Four First Steps, which earned an A- on CinemaScore exit polls. It's the same grade as Superman, and that film has remained a draw in subsequent weeks with 289 million domestically and 509 million globally. Quality is king. Their next point is no homework required, which was another complaint given all the Disney Plus shows and stuff. People were saying that it felt more like homework than entertainment to actually watch the MCU now, which is definitely not something that Marvel wants, but here we are. Over the course of 10 years, Marvel achieved something remarkable by weaving together 24 films to build to one epic conclusion, 2019's record-obliterating Avengers Endgame. Then Marvel seemingly dared the average moviegoer to keep up. In addition to the regular pace of 3 to 4 theatrical movies a year, the studio started to upload dozens of interconnected television shows with tangled storylines and too many characters to keep straight. Forget the average moviegoer, it was a lot to ask of Marvel devotees. Seriously, trying to watch the Marvels or Thunderbolts without having seen Black Widow, Miss Marvel, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, or Ant-Man and the Wasp, we dare you. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Just way too much. And you have to watch the Disney Plus shows, and you have to watch all these kind of smaller MCU fairs. It just became too much for audiences, and I think that Marvel really suffered because of it. So what a relief that Fantastic Four didn't require a single bit of prior knowledge about Galactus, Silver Surfer, or the inhabitants of Earth 828. Yeah, because it takes place in a separate universe from the main MCU, and there isn't any actual Marvel movies that lead into this one specifically, so you can just pick it up whenever, or regardless if you have any prior knowledge to the MCU. So I don't know if the Fantastic Four just don't exist in the regular MCU, but that might be interesting to explore sometime. But anyway, as part of the marketing blitz, Kevin Feige and Disney were keen on making sure nobody felt excluded, emphasizing that first steps shouldn't be intimidating to casual Marvel fans. It's a no homework required movie, Feige recently told a room of reporters. It literally is not connected to anything we've made before. Good, because we hate homework. Yeah, I think that's a sentiment that most people share. But I think that's why they specifically said it in a different universe. And I also thought it was nice that they didn't just rehash the origin story again, because we've already had Fantastic Four movies and we've already seen that origin story. It's a very common complaint when it comes to characters like Batman or Spider-Man and Fantastic Four too. But the next point they make is not famous but familiar. Hollywood has failed several times to bring Marvel's first family, as the Fantastic Four are colloquially known, to the big screen, most notably with 2005's Fantastic Four and the 2007 sequel Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, starring Chris Evans, which is a little crazy because he also went on to play Captain America, but he did play Johnny Storm originally, and Jessica Alba, as well as 2015's reboot with Miles Teller, Kate Mara, and Michael B. Jordan. Although the first two efforts were decent box office performers, all three were critically reviled. Yeah, I personally wasn't a huge fan of any of those movies, but that's just my opinion. Those movies were produced by 20th Century Fox, which licensed the mutant characters prior to the studio's 2019 merger with Disney. I think it's interesting to call them mutant characters, but I guess that's technically not false. Just that, it's the Marvel universe, so mutant has a different connotation. But anyway, so although the foursome of Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, The Thing, and Human Torch are new to the Avengers, it helps in terms of awareness that they aren't completely unrecognizable to the movie-going masses. Even if you don't know their government names, that's Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Ben Grimm, and Johnny Storm to you. You've likely heard of the Fantastic Four. That's more than we can say about Yelena Belova, Sentry, Taskmaster, and Red Guardian. So yeah, like I was saying, people probably just couldn't really get behind the Thunderbolts. A little disappointing, admittedly, but I guess it is what it is. Not a drop of competition, I guess, unless you count Superman, but that had already been out for a few weeks. For better or worse, the Fantastic Four First Steps is the final major blockbuster of the summer movie season. Although Hollywood has several potential sleeper hits on the calendar in August, such as Zach Cregger's Weapons, Disney's Freakier Friday, and Paramount's Naked Gun reboot, there's truly nothing on the horizon in terms of an all-audience tentpoles. It's not until the fall, when Disney's Tron Ares is scheduled for October 10th, that a potential 4-quadrant film will land on movie theater marquees. While that's less than fantastic for theater operators, I see what they did there, the Fantastic Four First Steps has free reign over the box office through the dog days of summer. So I guess Superman got its bag, and now Fantastic Four basically has all of August. It's admittedly kind of nice to see DC and Marvel doing well for once. Then on the comic book front, there's a long 11-month stretch until the DC adaptation of Supergirl touches down next June, followed by Marvel's Spider-Man Brand New Day in July. Leave them wanting more? So I guess they're hoping for a repeat of this year, which is kind of crazy, but still a pleasant surprise. So that's about it for the article. So it looks like Marvel's finally learning their lesson, and maybe we'll see if it's enough to get the MCU back on top. But we'll see how far the Fantastic Four can go. But overall, this was a pretty good summer for superhero films, which I'm personally happy to see. So what are your thoughts on all this? Do you think Marvel's finally able to turn it around? Let me know in the comments below, I'd love to hear from you. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our members: Tyrant Carnivore, Shiny Orc Boy, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JVR, Equestron, Norman Sweet Cream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Hunter Rose, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Felix Bam, Lucas Geist, J Draws, Meowsers, Sky, Philip, Isaac Martinez, Garcia XV Legend, Tobias Weller, Bandito Bane, Mac B909, Dakari the Professor, Todd McCaffrey, Omni Fair, Cavalcoj, Strider Exile, Phil C, Killer Bomb, Slawa Saporiguez, Entwined Boot 301, Griffin of Might, Frankie Camarillo, Datadyne Executive, Crimson Phantom, Jin the Goblin, Papa Hud 69, The Gengar King, Daunter, G-Rock, and Chaos Jumper. Thank you for the support, and if you want to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.